Hello, everybody, and welcome to another American Scouser podcast. We have the Monday crew back. I'm your host, Timuchin, as always, hosting in cold ass Chicago. So let me answer this, because we talked about this on Thursday's pod, and one thing I was asking, would you watch AFCON if it was a tournament that was happening in summer and with no other, sports or at least soccer action going on? Would you be tuned into it like a Euro tournament or a World Cup tournament?
Probably. I mean, if it had better coverage too, that would probably help it. I mean, the coverage was pretty poor in general. I probably would. I probably would if it was like a summer event, like kind of like the Euros or the World Cup. I probably would. I mean, I get listen, the best part of AFCON is the people that are there. Like the Africans supporting their nation, their country. That was the best part of the whole damn thing. Like seeing them partying and just the celebratory coming together of all the people for their nations and what obviously means so much to them was absolutely 100% the best part of it. It's a shame the football doesn't give them more to cheer about.
What do you think, Gally? I mean, I know you two have been anti-AFCON for a while. For me, it was just about the timing. Otherwise, I don't know.
We're not anti-AFCON, though. That's the thing. We're just unenjoyable football. There's a big difference.
You guys have been pretty anti-AFCON too, but okay.
I've been arguing about the play. I've been arguing about the conditions of the pitches in which they're playing. I think the fact that we've had 3 major controversies in refereeing shows that there is just a break in their federation. It doesn't feel like a fair and balanced tournament. They did everything they could to have Cameroon win, and they walk out of the thing with 3rd place. So, I mean, there were games called with 5 minutes left on the clock. I don't want to, the refereeing was one part of the issue because, honestly, that tournament was a 0-0 draw. The tournament was a 0-0 draw. So why would anyone expect the final to be anything else but 120 minutes of paint drying just to watch a little bit of drama? And let's be honest, Jamie Carragher is absolutely right. Egypt should run their manager out today for losing a final without their only class player. I'll take away world-class player there. Really class player not taking a penalty, waiting for him to take the winning penalty instead of putting one in the back of the net that they needed. So it's just moronic. They played defensive. They were poor. And there were more 0-0 draws than there were scored outcomes. So there were actually more 0-0s in the entire tournament than there were where teams actually each scored more than 1 goal. That's a pretty pathetic performance at the national team level. And I think Africa as a continent, as a federation, as a fan base, they deserve better than that. And that was my criticism of the tournament. It isn't the players. And to Paul's point, they love their country. If people from the United States can show up and get excited about that piece of trash, then I understand bad international football. I watch it all the time. But they just deserve better than that. They're better fans, and the tournament should have represented.
And obviously the biggest final point for us was the fact that it was Mo against Mane, something that you probably wished for and didn't wish for at the same time. We were going to win, and we were going to lose. Going into the game, Bickler, who were you rooting for to win this one?
I didn't really feel compelled one way or the other, to be perfectly honest. I was on team, everybody get off the pitch in 90 minutes healthy, and that didn't happen. They went 120. Mo played 8 games, I feel like, in 11 days. But I didn't really feel strongly one way or the other. If somebody put a gun in my head and made me choose, I would pick Coffee. No, I'm just kidding. I would probably pick Mo just because I do want him to have the best chance at a Ballon d'Or he can possibly get, and I think that would have helped his cause. But I'm sure that's going to more come down to World Cup and Euro stuff down the line. So I would have probably picked Mo had I had to choose, but I didn't feel really compelled one way or the other.
How about you, Gally?
I honestly didn't really care who won it. I, too, was just hoping for a 90-minute match that would, end and that they'd both come out uninjured. I kind of like Paul. I thought it would be a feather in the cap for Mo if they were to win it, that he would have gotten some international level success that might have helped propel him higher up in the Ballon d'Or voting. But I think to Paul's point, these same two countries are about to play each other in a World Cup qualifier later in June that will determine which of those two teams makes it in the World Cup and which doesn't. And for that, I am really happy for Sadio. I would say out of the two of them in the time at Liverpool, it has appeared to me that playing for Senegal actually means more to Sadio Mane than anything. And for that, I'm very happy for him. He is the, big star of that team along with, Mendy from Chelsea. So I'm really happy for Mane. He looked really excited sleeping with the trophy in his bed. And they were lighting off firework aerosol cans during their victory celebration. And I'll tell you this, I would have wanted to be part of that celebration. I think they had a national holiday today where they shut everything down and basically were just partying it up. So I can't imagine he'll be as ready for training as Salah claims he will be tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I was mainly rooting for Sadio. And I know what Bickler is saying. I think that was almost like the only reason to root for Egypt so that Mo can get more international recognition, if you will, or respect, or some of these bigger awards and stuff like that. But having Egypt win it so much, and I thought in terms of morale and confidence wise, it was something that Sadio needed definitely a lot more than Mo needed. And just hearing, I was watching something earlier right before the broadcast about Mane basically saying this is the biggest thing he's won, even over the Premier League title and the Champions League and everything like that, because this does mean that much to them. It was the first time they won it, so I kind of want them to win it. So Sunday morning, crack of dawn, was another game that the boys played in, and that was against Cardiff City. So let's start with the lineup here, Bickler.
Nothing that really shocked me too much. I just, on paper, I hate that midfield, and then also watching it, I hate that midfield, but I also kind of understand what they were doing. I just don't love Henderson in the 6. I like Kate. I like Naby on the left more than I do on the right. I like Jones on the right more than I like him on the left. But I also know that Jones struggles with his defensive assignments, and that can be a fucking death trap if you put him in front of Trent. Although I think he plays better on that side, so I understand why they were where they were supposed to be. I guess I should just be grateful that we didn't start Milner with Henderson in that midfield and call it a day. I don't know.
Really? How about you, Gally? What did you think of the 11?
So the 11 as a whole, I wasn't that shocked. I was happy to see Tsimikas get a run out. I still think he probably should start one of these games coming up in the Premier League as well, to give Robo a little bit of a refresh and a recharge ahead of the Champions League games in the midweek. I like the front three. I didn't expect Diaz to start, so I was happy with the front three. The back four I thought kind of picked itself. Konate has to get minutes. He's got to play more with Virgil. At some point, he's going to have to give Virgil days off. He's going to need to have to give this man a couple matches off between if we're going to compete on 4 fronts the rest of the way. So in some ways, I was a little surprised this wasn't a Matip and Konate center back pairing, especially knowing that they were going up against a Cardiff team that was struggling. I think the fear then was that they would have then used the big brute of a center forward to just go at Konate, who's got a mistake in him. Can win those battles, but also has a mistake in them. So by putting Van Dijk out there, it kind of made him the target. To Paul's point in the midfield, I love Jordan Henderson, but at some point, he needs a little bit of a break and a little bit of a refresher too. I can't remember the last game he didn't start where he was healthy. And everyone says, you need your captain in the lineup every game. But I really believe we've seen a drop in his form this season. And it's kind of considerable. And it's not just the decision-making process, but the actual, what he's actually putting out on the pitch. I mean, he's turning the ball over in tough spots. He's not really connecting on many passes, and he's very rarely breaking the lines. And we've gotten so accustomed to him not only being industrious, but also being a playmaker for us in that midfield. And I really think he's struggling. So, to Paul's point, it would have been great if you had Fab there. Maybe you could have started a Morton. But I think they're going to have to do a little juggling to balance to figure out the best way to fit these guys in. I think Ox turning up positive for COVID the day, 3 days before the match probably had a big deal to do with how that starting lineup played out. Because I think he would have been in the midfield three if he was healthy. I also think Gomez probably would have got a start in this match if he hadn't been on the COVID list as well. So I think that kind of threw Jurgen into a little bit of a shuffle. So maybe my bitching about Virgil getting the start was more out of necessity than the original.
What do you make of the first half and in terms of really not being able to create much with all the possession we had?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think part of that just comes down with we traditionally struggle with low block defending, right? But also, I mean, if you look across that starting 11, that is like the perfect nightmare for that scenario because Bobby's not, I love him, but he is not the solution in these games. And so you kind of lost what he does and does well. Taki obviously is not physically imposing. I will give Taki this. He is industrious to the point where he will run until he can run no more. And that is the good thing about him is that he will continually grind something out and put himself in good positions like he did with the Diaz assist. But against the low block, Taki doesn't offer you a whole lot just because he can't physically body somebody up in the box. Bobby, same thing. He's better coming in the mids and creating space. You can't create space when you have 8 defenders behind.
What do you think is the secret formula against teams that sit back?
Well, one of the keys to that formula is having Thiago in the lineup healthy and fit to play from the start because he dictates and he does make passes and see passes that other members of our midfield just don't visualize ahead of time and don't even have in their locker. If they could see it, they can't make it. And I think that's something that we brought him here to do. And at times we've started to see it. And when he plays with Hendo and Fab, you see a little bit more of it because he drifts deeper and then he kind of cuts through lines. I think that's a big key is getting Thiago back into the routine of playing the majority of minutes in the side, especially against the sides that set up that way. The other part is you have to have pace on the outsides, whether it's Mane or Mo actually making runs, taking players out, and allowing for the fullbacks to create. But to Paul's point, we can't be crossing into the box with, 3 guys standing underneath 5'7". We have to have some size or some of our midfielders making runs. Another key for me is I think Jones, I love his swashbuckling mentality. I love his attitude on the pitch. I also think that he needs to recognize that he needs to move the ball faster. He gets caught on the ball in too many situations. If Tsimikas keeps his eye on that line and doesn't drift into an offside position when he had no reason to, Taki buried the only chance we had in the first half, off his boot and into the net. So once again, whether we like the player, he's strong enough or he has a long-term future here at Anfield, when that guy is given minutes, he either puts himself in positions to score goals, and more often than not, when he gets those opportunities, he actually scores them.
And to go on that Taki thing, because I give him a lot of crap, especially for lack of strength and not being able to hold the ball and stuff. I mean, I feel like he's trying harder to be physical, and the ball that actually created the goal that Trent crossed in was actually him wrestling with a couple of people and having his jersey pulled on, earning that foul. So I feel like he's trying, but like Bickler says, I just don't think there's only a certain kind of potential. I don't know if he'll grow into that. Against these defenses, going back to what you were saying, Bickler, has Jota made himself the starter over Bobby just because of his finishing, especially in the air?
Sure. Yes. I think so. And I think Bobby's at this age now where, he probably needs the rotation for his legs a little bit. I think it makes tactical sense. I think adding Diaz to the lineup only helps that situation because you've got another option up there too. So, yeah, I will say that.
How about you, Gally? What's your take on that conversation?
I think that we are going to see Bobby get more of the starts against the more free-flowing teams like the Cities, the Arsenals, Chelsea's, teams that play within and really, where Bobby can drop back and create extra space. I think that's going to be where he plays. I think there's an opportunity to play all 4 of them, against some of the more low block teams and play them in different ways, because I think they can be interchangeable. And when I say all 4 of them, I mean the original 4. Still kind of thinking, I believe Diaz is going to be really an impact sub spot starter for the rest of this season. And then next year, I think, is where we'll really see him kind of solidify himself into that front 3 or top 4. I just think it's a really good problem to have.
Gally, let's start with you on this one. What do you make for the performance? Let's start with Elliott first, and then we'll go to Diaz.
You just got to be stoked for this kid. You got to be stoked for his dad. You know, he performs at Anfield, scores his first senior goal for the club in front of the cops with his father in the stadium. And it's not just a goal, it's an absolute worldie. And the touch, the take, the technique, the ability to do it on your comeback when you have all that excitement, the effort he put in to be back on the pitch, coming off a dislocated ankle, in this short amount of time, it's a testament to the young man, to how much he cares, to how excited he is to be part of this, and honestly, to how much he believes he is and can be one of the starting 11, top 13. That kid, to me, looks like he belongs every minute he's out on the pitch.
Saying, how can you not be happy for this kid? It's a great story, and I really like the head on the shoulders as well as like the player on the field. What did you make of the limited time we saw him action there, Gally?
I mean, I think we saw a little bit of the special player. We saw him drive, from the left. One time he came all the way across, the entire pitch to the middle, almost a la the wonder goal he scored against City in the Champions League final. He, released, I don't know if it was Trent or Jota, and it was just a little bit, maybe just took the guy a little bit wider than it needed to be. I think what you see is he's a menace, right? You saw him put pressure on the Cardiff defender. He has great feet as he was able to steal that ball, not only off of the defender, but play it around him, keep it on the touchline, and then make the little darting pass, cutback pass. We also saw a little bit of him and Robo doing some nice things out there on the left-hand side, when Robo set up the Taki goal. Or not the Taki goal, when Robo set up the third goal. So there was some good interaction with his fullbacks. I think what we saw is a guy was able to get on the pitch.
What do you think, Bickler? He's Colombian, so I'm sure he loves coffee, so you can easily trust the guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I need, right? I'm good. So here's my thing about him and what I noticed. He seems like a really smart footballer, and that's huge for me because I think you can cover up a lot of technical deficiencies with just game intelligence. Like the idea, the positioning of cutting off that outlet, knowing that Jota is behind that defender, is like just good, smart footballing. He knows that he's got the byline and that guy has no option. So just by sheer like blue collar hard work and intelligence, he creates that out of nothing. And then once he gets the ball, it was like the ghost of Luis Suarez. If you look at that footwork, like it was like, I mean, that's what it reminded me. It reminded me of Suarez, where he's basically covered by 3 dudes and he gets through them just by like shifting the ball around. Like it was unreal to see. And then he puts the ball in a good spot. Jota misses it and Taki gets it in. It's his assist. Either way, I don't care. I thought it was great. I loved seeing him. I love the fact that he was batshit crazy out there in a T-shirt with gloves. Like, I mean, I like to see those kind of stones on a guy that's probably freezing his nuts off and like still is just like, I'm going to rock this T-shirt. I would not have faulted him for going out in a full ski mask. But like the fact that he was just out there in a T-shirt, takes a cleat to the knee, gets up, he's got the gloves on. I loved it, man. I think he's going to be the real deal.
I think anyone who's complaining about the squad depth on February 7th, 2022, only has to look back to February 7th of 2021 to see how far we've come. We are going to start telling senior fit players making 70 to 100,000 pounds a week that they're not making match day squads in the next 2 weeks at this club.
So I think the squad depth is fine right now. I think that argument, like, it's a polarizing argument. I think people are either on one side of the fence or the other. And like, I see it more in the middle. I think there's legitimacy to people that have issues with our squad depth. And that comes from the fact that like people forget, like we started this season with 8 midfielders for 3 spots. That's like, no manager is going to look at that and be like, that's not enough. Like, it's clearly enough bodies for 3 spots. The issue with it is for those 8, so 50% of them are Naby, Ox, Thiago, and Milner. Okay? So you can make the argument Ox he's not healthy enough. Thiago is not healthy enough. Like, Naby is not healthy enough. Milner is 54. You know what I mean? Like, there's legitimate arguments as to why you're concerned about depth in the midfield. But Naby, we paid a huge amount for and waited an entire half a year to come. Ox, we got on a freeze on huge wages. Thiago is obviously was like a huge part of us breaking down a low block. He was like, I mean, he was considered by a lot to be a luxury buy, but there was clearly he was bought with a very specific purpose, and he still can serve that purpose. And you know, Milner, we're just going to run that till the trains, like the wheels come off that train. He's like, I don't ever want to see him start again. Like, but I think he's got value to the squad. Those 4 guys are not guys that you just clip and replace for a number of reasons. And
quick score predictions. Gally, we'll start with you. Leicester City.
3-0.
Dang. Bickler.
3-1.
I'll go with 3-1 as well. I feel like they will get one on the counter. But